If I told you that the Diamondbacks and Rangers were going to be playing in the 2023 World Series 2 years ago, you probably would have told me to get out of town. Sorry, buddy, I'm staying in town because it happened. It might be crazy to think that this happened considering that these two teams were awful in 2021. The Diamondbacks finished with a record of 52-110, while the Rangers slotted in just ahead of them with a record of 60-102. All it took was one season in between that one and this year, where both teams found themselves in the Fall Classic. Even going back to the start of this season, it seemed unlikely. The odds that the Rangers won the World Series was plus 4,500 at the start of spring training. That number was the 17th best, or Vegas thought that the Rangers had the 17th best chance to win the World Series. The Diamondbacks, on the other hand, opened the year with plus 10,000 odds, which was tied with the Tigers for the 23rd highest chance to win the World Series. If you put money on the Rangers at that time, you're probably feeling pretty good right now. In my preseason rankings, where I broke down every team in the league, I had the Diamondbacks at 22 and the Rangers at 16, so I wasn't really high on these teams either. Now let's go to the start of the 2023 postseason. The odds that the Rangers made the World Series was plus 750, which was worst in the AL except for the Twins, who were plus 800. In the NL, the Diamondbacks were plus 1,300, second worst to only the Marlins, who were plus 1,400. No matter what time or stage of the season you go to, the odds that these two teams would be the two in the World Series were never high. Even though the series is already over and decided, let's go back and look at how these teams defied the odds and made it all the way to the World Series. Both of these teams made a quick turnaround from their low points in 2021. They did it in two opposite ways though. The Rangers, I don't want to say did it the easy way because there's no easy way to win the World Series, but they went out and spent money. Now that won't guarantee you a good season, but there is a pretty strong correlation between higher payrolls and higher win totals. The Rangers have the 4th highest payroll in 2023, so it's not like they're some small market team. They have stars on their roster. The Diamondbacks, on the other hand, have the 21st highest payroll and have fewer big names. The Rangers' payroll, as you can see, grew by a large margin since 2021, but the Diamondbacks' payroll has not. Like I said, these teams are almost completely opposite on the way they are built and opposite on how they attack and try to win games. The Rangers are pretty simple. They are built to outslug you. Their lineup is stacked from top to bottom with hitters that can do damage. Their 9th hitter even had a 98 WRC plus this year in Leody Taveras. That means he was pretty much an average hitter and he's hitting out of the 9 spot, which is typically a guy who tends to struggle at the plate. Enough talk about the 9th hitter though. This team is built off the top of this lineup. They went out and paid Corey Seager and Marcus Semien $500 million for a reason. Seager plays shortstop and Semien plays second base, and those two positions are normally not known for their offense. Shortstop is usually more defensively focused, and second base just doesn't have too many good bats to go around. The Rangers, though, have the advantage since they have the 2 best hitters at those positions in the league. Seager and Semien will both finish very high in the MVP voting this year, and they deserve it. Semien played all 162 games and put up a 124 WRC+. He doesn't strike out, and he gets his fair share of walks. He does all this while playing great defense at second base, making him one of the best all-around players in the entire league. Those numbers equate to a 6.3 fWAR, which is second in the AL, only behind Shohei Ohtani. Now, if you think that is good, let me just tell you a little bit about Corey Seager. Seager only played in 119 games as he struggled with injuries a little this year. Even in that shortened season, he put up a 6.1 fWAR, which is third in the AL behind Semien and Ohtani. If he would have played a full season of about 150 games at the same pace, he would have put up around 7.7 fWAR, which is right up there with Mookie Betts, Ronald Acuna, and Freddie Freeman. He's easily the best hitter at the shortstop position, and you could make an argument that he is a top 5 hitter in the entire league. He hits for average as he put up a .327 batting average this season. He hits for power as he's in 96th percentile in average exit velocity and hit 33 home runs. He has a solid walk rate at 9.1% and only strikes out 16.4% of the time. And to add to his phenomenal offense, he plays average to above average defense at shortstop. He's a superstar in this league, and he's getting paid $325 million for a reason. The Rangers lineup doesn't stop there though. You got Adolis Garcia with a 124 WRC+, who got really hot in the postseason. Evan Carter, who has also been on fire since he was called up in September, as he posted a 180 WRC+. Then you got Mitch Garver with 138. Jonah Heim, who's one of the best defensive catchers in the league, with still above average hitting at 103. Nate Lowe and Josh Young finish it off at 114 and 110. There are 0 holes in this lineup. The pitching side though is not as strong as the offense. The Rangers made some big moves at the trade deadline earlier to address that. The huge free agent signing of Jacob deGrom has not worked out well at all. deGrom signed a $185 million deal over 5 seasons before 2023, but of course is going to be out for most, if not all, the 2024 season with a torn UCL. The Rangers also signed Nathan Eovaldi to a 2-year $34 million deal, which was looking like one of the best signings of the offseason early on. Eovaldi got off to an insane start and was in the running for the AL Cy Young for a while until he cooled off by the mid-season mark. Along with those two came Andrew Heaney with a 2-year $25 million deal. He struggled in 2023, posting a 4.15 ERA and a 4.16 FIP, which is still solid but not top of the league. With DeGrom out and Eovaldi tapering off, the Rangers went out and got Max Scherzer from the Mets and Jordan Montgomery from the Cardinals at the deadline. In hindsight, the Montgomery trade is easily the best trade at the deadline, as he's pitched to a 2.79 ERA and a 3.27 FIP since being traded over to the Rangers. Scherzer was also solid, posting a 3.20 ERA and a 3.41 FIP with the club. Going into the playoffs, their four-man rotation was Montgomery, Eovaldi, Scherzer, and Heaney. None of these guys were on the roster in 2022, and this rotation was really built up in the span of just one season. The trades for Montgomery and Scherzer made this rotation a whole lot more reliable. The bullpen was shaky in 2023 for the Rangers. They finished in the bottom third of the league in both FIP and ERA. They didn't strike out a lot of people and gave up a lot of home runs, which are two big things that you want your bullpen to do well. Their four main relievers coming out of the pen are Aroldis Chapman, who they got from the Royals mid-season, Will Smith, Jose Leclerc, and Josh Sborz. If anyone had to come out of the bullpen other than those four, then things typically did not go well. They were built off the offense though, and you can tell that by looking at the team stats for the 2023 season. They were near the top of the league in almost every offensive category, and pitching-wise, they were kind of all over the place. They got hot at the right time as they swept the Rays and the first-seeded Orioles in 2 games and 3 games respectively. They took the Astros to 7 games after being down 3-2 and won Game 7 to send them to the World Series. In these 12 games, the offense scored 71 runs, nearly 6 runs per game, led by Corey Seager, Adolis Garcia, and Evan Carter. But the biggest surprise was how effective their pitching staff was down the stretch. They gave up 42 runs, which is an ERA of just 3.75, leading up to the World Series. Montgomery and Eovaldi were rock solid, allowing them to save the bullpen on multiple occasions, which is huge for the Rangers considering their bullpen is not deep by any means. This allowed them to use their big guns from the bullpen when it really mattered most, and the offense gave them plenty of room to work with. Corey Seager may be getting most of the attention, but those 2 pitchers for the Rangers are, in my opinion, the biggest reason why this team was successful in the postseason. Nobody was expecting the Diamondbacks to make a run at the playoffs, let alone make it to the World Series at the beginning of the year. They did get off to a good start, but came back down to earth. By the trade deadline, the team was sitting at 57-51, and they were quiet, only acquiring Paul Sewald from the Mariners. They limped into the postseason with a record of just 84-78. They were the 6th seed in the NL, and with the 3 powerhouses of the Braves, Dodgers, and Phillies, they had very low expectations. The Snakes are still a good team, but it isn't as easy to break down as the Rangers. They don't have sluggers from 1 to 9 in the order. They don't have guys like Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Max Scherzer. So let's get into it and see how this team made it all the way to the World Series. If you take a look at the team stats, they are bottom half in terms of hitting. A WRC plus of 98 means that their offense produced runs at a below average rate, 2% below average since a WRC plus of 100 is average. They weren't hitting a lot of home runs, and they really weren't hitting for average. The one thing they did do well was run the bases. They were 2nd in the league in stolen bases with 166. Fangraphs has them as the 6th best base running team according to their base running runs above average, which is basically saying how many runs are you creating based on your team's base running. The lineup is led by the rookie sensation Corbin Carroll, who does just about everything well. He hits for contact, takes walks, doesn't strike out, hits for power, steals bases, and plays good defense. Ketel Marte alongside him is a good bat to have, and Christian Walker is their biggest power threat, and he's also arguably the best defensive first baseman in the league. Gabriel Moreno is a great all-around catcher, as he has a good bat and plays solid defense behind the plate. The rest of this lineup, though, is not too exciting. They don't have too many big hitters, but that's not how they beat you. They will string hits together and run the bases better than you, and that is how they've done it in the playoffs as well. Even if they don't steal a base, the threat is always there, and the pitcher has to be aware of that, which could throw off his command. John Smoltz has only said that about 800 times on the broadcast, so you probably already know that. Turning to the pitching side of things, the team is very top-heavy. Overall, they weren't that good of a unit in the 2023 season. The starting rotation was bogged down by the back end, and the bullpen wasn't all that effective either. They were able to do enough combined with the speedy offense to get into the playoffs though. And once they were in the playoffs, the lack of depth in the rotation and bullpen doesn't really matter as much. There are a lot of days off in the postseason, so you don't need a 5-man dominant rotation to win games. They have 2 of the top starting pitchers in the league in Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. Gallen, of course, is in the running for the NL Cy Young this year as he's had a fantastic season. He limits walks, strikes out a fair share of batters, limits the homers, and pitches a lot of innings. Those are the 4 most important things you can ask from a pitcher, and he does all 4 very well. The bullpen was also just meh throughout the regular season. This whole team wasn't all that impressive during the regular season, but in the postseason, they've really turned it on. The team was led by Ketel Marte on offense. He broke the record for the longest hitting streak in the playoffs and has a WRC plus of 145 to lead the team. Perdomo, Moreno, and Tommy Pham have also been hitting well in the postseason. The Diamondbacks have only used 3 starters primarily through the postseason. Those starters were the aforementioned Gallen and Kelly, along with the promising young arm of Brandon Pfaadt. Gallen struggled leading up to the World Series, but threw 6 no-hit frames in Game 5. Kelly was solid, but Pfaadt was the biggest X-factor of this Diamondbacks pitching staff. He struggled in the regular season, but turned in a 3.27 ERA with 26 strikeouts and just 5 walks in 22 innings. It started out rough with a 2.2 inning performance in Game 1 of the wildcard series against the Brewers. He gave up 7 hits and 3 runs, but the Diamondbacks were able to pull out with a win. The next 2 starts were dominant. He threw 10 innings combined against the Dodgers in Game 3 and the Phillies in Game 3. The Diamondbacks won both of those starts. He allowed 0 runs, giving up just 4 hits and striking out 11 batters. He then started Game 7 of the NLCS against Philadelphia, and he pitched 4 strong innings, holding the Phillies' explosive offense to just 2 runs and 4 hits while striking out 7. That performance sent the team to the World Series. He got 1 start against the Rangers, throwing 5 1/3 in Game 3 while giving up 3 runs on 4 hits and 4 Ks. Pfaadt, along with Ketel Marte, are 2 of the bigger reasons why this team was successful in the postseason. If they ever got to the 4th starter spot, they would use a bullpen game with a few long inning guys to try to piece together a win. These 2 teams couldn't be more different. One thing that they had in common, though, is that not many people believed that they would be in this position that they were in. This World Series may not go down as the most exciting of all time, but it is unique in the way that these teams got there, and that in itself is worthy of a discussion. It had the stars in Corey Seager and Max Scherzer. It had the young rising stars of Corbin Carroll and Brandon Pfaadt. It may have not had the most excitement, but it does go to show you that in baseball, you get hot at the right time, anything is possible.
63rd season. It's the Texas Rangers